let's start. Let's talk about coming of age movies and the genre as a whole and the problem I have with them. And before we get into it, the problem I have with it is its narrow lens it has on teenagers and teenagehood, and how it feels like it always tells the same story, different stories through the same characters and the same people. Okay, so the definition of a coming of age movie, according to Wikipedia, is in film, coming of age is a genre of teen films. Coming of age films focus on the psychological and moral growth or transition of a protagonist from youth to adulthood. Personal growth and change is an important characteristic of this genre, which relies on dialogue and emotional responses rather than action. Ever since its creation, it has always been popular because teenagers is a very relatable topic if you've gone through it and specific experience. Like once you've gone through what being a teenager feels like, you can relate with anybody about your feelings and how you like the way you thought. It's like very international, worldwide. Everyone who has gone through those experiences can relate, and that has made the genre of film very popular. So let's start with the first movie I looked at, which is like one of the first coming of age movies ever filmed in Hollywood. Now I know this is not really the first one, but this is the first like one about teenagers made for teenagers that I found, because the other ones before this were like films for like the whole family, even for kids. That's what I'm going off of. So let's talk about Rebel with a Cause. This is one of the first coming of age movies about teenagers made for teenagers. Let's look at the plot quickly and see why this movie was so successful. In this movie, we meet three different teenagers who all have been locked up for different crimes at a police station. We first meet Jim, who is played by James Dean, and he has been arrested for plate drunkenness at the station. He meets John Plato Crawford, who was brought in for killing a litter of puppies. And finally, we meet Judy, played by Natalie Wood, who was brought in for curfew violation. The audience is able to understand why these characters would do such things because they all have home problems. So these are the problems that they're experiencing at home, and I did get this information from Wikipedia. Jim feels betrayed and anguished by his constantly bickering parents, Frank and Carol, but even more so by his father's timid attitude and failure to stand up to Carol. The issues are further complicated by Frank's interfering mother, and this is Judy's problem. Judy is convinced that her father ignores her because she's no longer a little girl, so she dresses up in racy clothing to get attention, which only causes her father to call her a dirty tramp. Plato's father abandoned his family when he was a toddler, and his mother is often away from home, leaving Plato in the care of his housekeeper. So the teenage audience who share some of these problems can relate to these characters and see themselves in these characters. The movie explores themes of rebellion, love, peer pressure, and grief. Natalie Wood, Sal Mineo, and Nicholas Ray were nominated for Academy Awards for their roles in Rebel with a Cause, which grossed $7,197,000 in domestic and overseas screenings, making it Warner Brothers' second biggest box office draw that year. So basically, this movie falls into the coming of age genre because, as we had talked about before, coming of age is all about growing up, and by the end of the film the characters are different than when they started the film. They're a little bit more mature, and they've seen a lot, so then they are able to like grow up from those experiences. So let's talk about John Hughes and the 80s. If you've never seen a John Hughes film, I don't know, like, why are you, like, how have you never heard of a John Hughes film? Have you never seen one? Like, it's really, unless you like live in like a place that is like cut off from like society. I feel like the most memorable 80s coming of age films are John Hughes films, and they might be problematic today.
It was about 12. been looking forward to my Sweet 16. You know, a big party, a band, tons of people, and a big Trans Am in the driveway with a ribbon around it, and some incredibly gorgeous guy that you meet like in France. You do it on a cloud without getting pregnant or herpes. I don't need the cloud. Just a pink Trans Am and the guy, right? A black one. A black guy? A black Trans Am, a pink guy. Oh
no. What's happening, hot stuff?
Parents and pushing lawn mowing machine so grandpa's hyena don't get disturbed.
Hernia!
Oh.
Oh, sexy girlfriend!
But there's a reason why they're all worked as teenage movies, because of the same reason to why most good teenage movies work today. Because they take normal teenage emotions and activities and turn them into a story. And they're super relatable. If you look at 16 Candles, very basic concept. It takes a crush on a boy and a forgotten birthday by her family, because Sam is like, she's a part of a big family, so she's often forgotten by her parents. Like, they don't even, I believe, I haven't watched this film in a long time because they got taken off Netflix. I believe in the beginning of the movie, like, her parents don't even pack her lunch. Pretty in Pink, Unrequited Love, Friendship, and Love. And Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a high school student just skips day and fakes sick and spends the rest of his day with his girlfriend and his friend. Takes really simple everyday concepts that we don't even think about and turn them into a whole movie with a story. Let's use The Breakfast Club as another example of this very basic concept. It uses detention as a way to introduce us to these 5 different characters who are all different and have struggles. And by the end of the day and the film have shared those struggles with the audience. They aren't just archetypes anymore. They are actual people. P.S. I don't really like The Breakfast Club. But like when I watched it, I thought that this movie is kind of stupid because it takes place in one day. But I can realize why it's a classic and why so many people liked it back in the day and why some people like it now. They're all simple stories that were turned into a much bigger story to reveal something about the characters and to tell even a greater story about teenagehood and teenagers. And that's what makes the genre good. And even like by the end of The Breakfast Club, all the characters have like come out of their shell. They're a little more vulnerable. They've changed a little bit. They're not the way they were in the beginning of the film development. Like we see like people who we never thought would be friends in high school are like friends by the end of the film because they realize, no, we're just humans. Even though I'm the spoiled rich girl and she's a basket case and he's like the bad boy and he's like the jock and he's the nerd, we still have so many things in common. The classic 90s. This decade and these types of films are very much obsessed with like a makeover, and not just a makeover in like looks, but makeover even in like personality. Let's talk about Clueless. We see Ty in the beginning of the film. She's very much simple, very much like tomboy. And then we see by the end of the film, she's a little bit more girly. You know, she transforms in the film. She literally has a makeover montage.
Let's do a makeover.
No.
No.
Oh, come on, let us. Cher's main thrill in life is a makeover, okay? It gives her a sense of control in a world full of chaos.
Please. Sure. Why not? Shit, you guys. I've never had straight friends before.
And vice versa, like we see another transformation that's not really like in our face in the film, which is Cher. She becomes more kind and more laid back, which shows the audience that a balance of the two is important, and just a little, and more so demonizes being obsessed with popularity and how popularity can change one's character. Like Ty was a sweet girl in the beginning, and then at the end, no, like in the middle of the story, she becomes obsessed with popularity, how Cher was in the beginning of the movie.
You're a virgin who can't drive.
She becomes mean and very much like a person you couldn't even recognize. She's not herself. So it very much demonizes being obsessed with popularity. And Cher also changes from being obsessed with popularity in the beginning of the movie to being like a real person. I don't know. So it's like very much obsessed with that character makeover for being the best version of yourself. 10 Things I Hate About You. Now, let's talk about this movie for like two seconds. I remember this has always been one of my favorite movies, and not because of TikTok, before people start saying, oh, you heard it because of TikTok. No. Ever since I first watched this movie, which was like when I was like 10, I've been obsessed with this movie. So don't try to say, no, it's because of TikTok. No. And I'm not saying I knew it before it got famous. This movie has always been around. I watched it when I was 10. The movie had been around for like over like 1999, 2015, like for 15 years. 16 years out. So I'm definitely not saying I knew before everyone did. 10 Things I Hate About You. We also see a makeover and a transformation of the two characters in this movie. I'm going to be focusing on Kat and her sister that I forgot the name of. Girl, what was her name? Bianca. I would have never guessed that. So we see Kat transforms to be a little bit more vulnerable with people and learn not to be so closed off and harsh. She looks down on her sister, who embraces popularity and wants it, but later learns that being the most popular girl and dating the most popular guy isn't worth it, and chooses to date the dorky newcomer. And this shows us two important lessons. Don't be too closed off, and don't be obsessed with popularity, similar to Clueless. Even Mean Girls has the same message. So we see Kat in the beginning of the movie. She's very much giving us, I think I'm better than other people because I don't embrace popularity and I don't embrace things that other people like. And I'm grungy and I'm a feminist. But she learns that by the end of the movie, she's a little bit more laid back. She's no more like all like, tough and very much kind of annoying. Like in the beginning, she's kind of annoying, let's not lie. And and Bianca, she learns that popularity is not everything that it's like made out to be. And she realizes that her friend, Gabrielle Union, who played everybody's best friend in 90s movies, was like, all these people around her were fake and they were using her. So yeah. These movies definitely use glitz and glamour to take in the audience, to teach them valuable lessons about high school and life and friendship and being a complete person. I do believe that these movies are a little bit obsessed with romance, that not everything has to revolve around romance. But then again, what would 10 Things I Hate About You be without Heath Ledger? Like, come on. Let's talk A24. Now let's talk about how A24 uses the same themes, like I've mentioned before, to make its movies, relatable and why they're so popular. The first thing that A24 is known for is like having like how the movies look. Very much they give a certain aesthetic. Like when you watch an A24 movie, you're not just watching it for the characters and the story, you're also watching it for the film as a whole, like the directing, the shots, everything's just beautiful, like aesthetically. Even if the movie's simple, like Lady Bird, the movies are simple, but they're shot beautifully. Lady Bird has some really pretty shots in the movie. But my favorite A24, and let me just say it, my favorite A24 film is Moonlight. I'm sorry. I feel like that never gets recognized as an A24 film, but it is. Okay, let's talk about Lady Bird. Lady Bird, which I low-key don't like, but that's a whole nother video. Uses relatable characters and simple themes to tell a story about self-discovery and growing up. It even dives into troubled relationships between parents and children. And I watched this video about how parents and children, sometimes you love your parents and your parents love you, but you guys just don't get along. Like, you're not friends. You don't like each other, but you love each other. Lady Bird does tell a story of this relationship between her mother and her. It also explores themes of popularity and it all being overrated and not to be too obsessed with it. So it shares the same story of not being obsessed with popularity, because popular people kind of suck and you need to be a certain, like, detached from reality to be popular and to withstand it. Like, 8th grade takes relatable things that everyone who has been 13, 14 can relate to and explores themes of popularity and peer pressure, and even like the scene when she's in the car with that guy and then he's trying to get her to do things with him and she's like, I really don't feel comfortable. He's like, I'm just trying to like help you. Like, it explores themes of like SA, I think, and peer pressure. I feel like that is like almost like sexual harassment and peer pressure in the same sentence. Let's talk about why I'm tired of this genre at this point. Now I'm gonna put up recent coming of age movies and I want you to tell me what they all have in common. Okay, time up, I'm gonna tell you. They are all centered around whiteness and all these characters are white. It has honestly become so normal for us to see white people in this genre that people don't even notice it anymore. If we can't tell stories outside of whiteness and white characters, can we honestly tell a story? Race is a big part of people's lives, including mine, and ignoring it is honestly insulting because at the end of the day, we have to sit here and watch people who are not like us. We don't have the same life experiences, we don't have the same skin color, we don't have the same hair texture, like we're very much different, but we sit here and we relate to these characters. We also want to see ourselves on screen doing what all these characters in these movies are doing. We want to be awkward, we want to fall in love, we want to be popular, we want to go, like, we want to be in these movies, we want to have these experiences because in real life we also do have these experiences. But of course, you can make a story featuring different races because it's not as relatable as a white person on screen having these experiences. Us people of color have watched all different types of stories with white characters and still have found some way to relate. Oh, but you can't when the shoe's on the other foot? Ask yourself, why? Why is it so hard to relate to someone who's not your race? And then think how we feel when we're watching people who look the same, who are not like us at all, and we still find some way to sit here and relate to these characters. I honestly feel like this genre is going to meet its end because people are honestly, I don't know if other people are getting tired of this, but I'm honestly getting tired of seeing the same white people fall in love 1,000 times on my screen. Like, I want to see different people. That's why movies like To All the Boys I Loved Before, she's not even black. Like, I don't care if the person is black. I don't care if I just want to see someone who's non-white fall in love because they do exist. People's lives don't center around whiteness, and I feel like we should stop having movies with the same white characters because we're limiting the amount of stories we can tell with the different races and different cultures and different ethnicities and different places around the world and like in countries around the world. We can tell so many other stories that don't have to be centered on the same thing. I feel like it's refreshing to see something new on screen, to see new dynamics on screen. And I feel like those stories need to be told too. And yeah, if you guys want to see more videos from me, then subscribe. If you want to see my last video, I did a video on Princess Diana and her life and her depictions in film. So if you want to see that, watch that video. And yeah, bye.